Hi, I'm Mazza, and today I'll be talking about climate change. So, first I want to talk about what is climate change. Climate change is a long-term changes in the weather patterns. Examples of climate change is pretty much the Earth temperature going up by 0.08 degrees Celsius per decade since 1880. And you can see in this chart right here how we map the weather. In conclusion, climate change is pretty much the aftermath of global warming. So what happens after global warming is climate change. People think global warming and climate change are the same thing. What is the difference between climate change and global warming? Global warming is pretty much the Earth heating up, the release of greenhouse gases, the increase of the average temperature, and then climate change is long-term weather patterns, changes in the rain, snow, and the level of water, pollution, the polar caps melting, water levels rising. The climate change is pretty much the after effects of global warming. So how do human activities affect climate change? Human activities contribute to climate change by polluting the atmosphere and changing the weather conditions by producing greenhouse gases and by polluting the Earth's atmosphere. An example of this is cars. There are about 1.4 billion cars in the world, and they constantly are producing greenhouse gases, which are the number one contributor to climate change. Another example of this is people burning fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are one of the most important contributors to climate change because the burning of fossil fuels produces around 35 billion tons of carbon dioxide per year, and carbon dioxide is the number one thing that causes climate change. So what role does carbon play in climate change? Carbon dioxide is the main cause of human-included global warming and associated with climate change. It is a very long-lived gas, which means carbon dioxide builds up in the atmosphere with ongoing human emissions and remaining in the atmosphere for centuries. Global warming can only be stopped by reducing global emissions of carbon dioxide from the human fossil fuels combustions and industrial process to zero. But even with zero emissions, the global temperature will still remain essentially consistent with its new warmer level. Emissions of other substances that warm the climate must also be substantially reduced. This indicates how difficult it is to change. So this is pretty much summarizing how difficult it is to change with no carbon dioxide. So what has Canada done for climate change? Some of Canadian initiatives that try to deal with climate change include the PFC initiative, which their goal is to stop climate change and create jobs while stopping climate change. This company has gone very far with what they're trying to do. And with climate change, for example, they're telling people not to drive their cars too much or burn fossil fuels, and they've literally stepped up they've reduced a lot of climate change. Also in the country, several policies for mitigation of climate change have been deployed, such as carbon pricing, fossil fuels de-advertisement, and the creation of climate change funding programs. So what could us humans do to help with climate change? Humans can combat climate change by doing many different things. For example, using eco-friendly types of ways to get electricity, such as wind turbines, solar panels, and hydroelectricity, instead of using burning fossil fuels or nuclear power plants, which is really bad for the environment. So we'd rather use these. And more things that we could do are using more efficient and eco-friendly things during our daily life. For example, eco-friendly light bulbs, using less heat or air conditioning, and not burning fossil fuels, which cause all this stuff. So what could SMCS do to help with climate change? Us at SMCS could tell everyone to stop driving cars, start walking and biking to school to cut down on some climate change. Another thing we could do is maybe start a fundraiser or a charity event to teach people and the parents of St. Mike's what climate change is and how to prevent and stop it. And the money that we'd get from the fundraiser would go to organizations that deal with climate change. And most of the parents would know and how to prevent climate change, use the information that we provided to them in a fun way, and it would really help a lot because so many kids there's so many kids around school, so many people, and we just teach them what's climate change and how to help the earth. So, how would we do that plan? We would have to implement this idea by promoting it on the school news, maybe making some flyers, maybe put flyers around the school, put flyers around the neighborhood, and we could just promote as much as possible. But this idea would have to happen after COVID because we would have to have a fundraiser. It'd be fun for the kids, and maybe we'd have a bouncy castle, we'd have a big fair, and we'd sell tickets to go on the rides, and the leftover money that we get, we'd like I said before, we'd go to organizations that are dealing with climate change, and it'll pretty much get like a couple things done. We had fun for once after coronavirus. We will make money for climate change and help climate change, and we'd also educate everyone in a fun way about climate change. So how do we educate the SMCS community and SMCS? We could educate the others in our community and in our school by maybe hosting talks after school about climate change and how to reduce your carbon footprint. This would be a very good idea because it would educate many of the people in our community that don't know anything about climate change and how to stop using bad things that will hurt the planet. And another way that we could educate people is by like putting up signs near garbage cans or something, telling them to recycle and to know what to do about climate change. And like maybe someone's about to throw out their plastic bottle into the garbage, and they see the sign that says recycle, they might put it in the recycling bin, and that would really help climate change. Overall, the SMCS community could do a lot to help with climate change, and if we do these things correctly, it can help our planet and animals. Conclusion. So, in conclusion, climate change is very bad for the planet. And with the water levels rising, it may kill many people and animals. But with the help of the world and people trying to reduce climate change, we can change that. The best thing that we could do right now is educate the community and teach them what to do to stop climate change. Like, teach them what not to do and what to do. Finally, if we do not take these actions that we need to take for our planet, we will cease to exist and people will lose their lives and animals will lose their habitats. Here are my sources, and the end.